Here's my creepy encounter. A couple of years ago, my buddy and I were bored one afternoon and decided to explore an abandoned house I had spotted earlier that week when I was out on a drive. We live in a town that's mostly suburbs, but if you drive 5 minutes north, it's all country roads, farmland, forest, etc. The abandoned house I spotted was in the middle of a field. There wasn't a paved road or gravel driveway that led up to it, so we parked as close as we could on the side of the road and walked through the tall grass to reach it. The house looked pretty old, most likely built in the early 1900s. There were plants engulfing the entire home, and part of the roof was missing from what looked like fire damage. It had obviously been abandoned for some time. My friend told me he was going to hang back when we came close to the house. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off and said he was getting bad vibes. I decided to keep going. When I reached the house, I looked through the window and saw lots of weather damage and signs of neglect. The door, however, was locked. I walked around the perimeter of the house and found a cellar door unlocked. I entered and slowly started walking down an old wooden staircase. I got about halfway down and squinted, waiting for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. The only light source was the sunlight coming in from the open cellar door. It was full of old belongings, furniture, and junk. Then, in the far right corner, I saw what looked like a figure standing in the darkness facing me. My stomach sank. It was a tall person, just standing there straight, with their arms at their side. I couldn't make out what they were wearing, or any facial features. I stood there for a few seconds staring back at them in shock. I thought it was my mind playing tricks on me. I squinted harder, trying to make out if I was seeing actually a tall figure, when suddenly it moved slightly and made a deep grunting sound. I panicked and ran up the stairs as fast as I could. When my friend saw the look on my face when I exited the basement, he started running towards the car. He said it looked like I had seen a ghost. When we drove away, I kept looking back to see if we were being followed, but nobody was there. So this happened a few years ago. I'm not exactly sure when, but I think I was around 13. I'm a 16-year-old female. My cousin, who I'm really close with, had a basketball game at her school, so me and my mom went to go watch her play. We were sitting on the bleachers in the front, closest to the floor, and we were just watching the game. I remember looking up at one point, at the bleachers higher up, and seeing an older man, probably in his 50s. I'm not that good with ages. He was wearing a jacket, jeans, and orange-tinted sunglasses, even though we were inside. I remember thinking it was a little weird he wasn't sitting with anyone. In fact, he was actually kind of far away from everyone else. Not that there were very many other people besides parents and siblings. I didn't really think much of it, thinking maybe he was a single father or something. The school was completely open to pretty much anyone during the game. The doors to both the entrance and the gym were both left open, so almost anyone could come and watch them play basketball. I made a small mental note of him and watched my cousin play. I also thought it was a little weird that he was pretty much the only person not cheering, or making any noise for that matter. He just kind of sat on the bleachers and watched the game, but I still ignored it. The game went on normal. I think they lost, I don't really remember, but we still cheered her on and told her she did well. After it was over, my cousin and the other girls went to go change from their basketball uniforms in the locker room, while the parents and other family and friends waited in the hall right next to the doors leading to the parking lot. While we were waiting for her to change, I saw the same older guy with the orange sunglasses. I figured he might be waiting for his daughter, or even his granddaughter, but after a couple minutes, he started acting weird. He would get really close to me without looking my direction, then walk back to over where he was before without looking again. He did this for a while, and I tried my best to ignore it. I watched as other families filed out with their kids, but every time a family passed by and exited through the door, he would follow them halfway, but stop as they walked through the doors. He left by himself, so he couldn't have been waiting for anyone. He never checked a watch or phone or anything either, so it's not like he was worrying about time. I remember thinking it was weird and creepy back then, but I didn't really realize how creepy his behavior was until I told my mom about it after we left. She told me I definitely should have told her, and to tell her if anything like that ever happens again. I think it creeped her out a bit too. He really creeped me out then. I got a bad vibe from him, and I remember shuffling closer to my mom whenever he got too close. He gave me a bad feeling, but I still wonder if I was overreacting. Maybe he was just a harmless guy who just wanted to watch the game. I don't know. I'm hoping you guys will have some opinions or thoughts on it. I think I might just be reading too much into it. When I turned 18, me and my two friends decided to take a trip to our local casino. We mostly played simple games, like slots and video roulette, since it was our first time going to a casino. After losing some money, we decided to search for something to eat. Pretty much everything was way too overpriced, so we wandered around for quite a bit. Eventually, we reached a hallway along the border of the main floor. We made our way down the hall, looking for food, but everything was closed. We started to notice that the hallway was completely vacant of people. As we wandered further down the hall, we reached an oddly intriguing small room through a double doorway. This was the only entrance into the room. It was completely empty except for the three of us and about 10 to 20 slot machines. We were bored, so I decided to throw $5 into the slot machine and spin a few times. After my second or third spin, an odd-looking man, early to mid-30s, appeared from behind the slot machine, seemingly out of thin air. He began watching me play and started getting uncomfortably close to us. We weren't very worried, since we outnumbered him 3 dudes to 1, however, we were very confused. We grew more and more uneasy the longer he stood there, not saying a word. Eventually, my friend decided to ask him what's up. The man looked at us for a second before asking if we were all brothers. None of us even look remotely similar, so we told him we're all just friends. He said, "Oh, that's great," and proceeded to ask if he could join our group. We told him that we all came together and lied in saying that we were actually planning on leaving soon. He told us that we should stay and play with him, and says my good friend Rachel over there knows all the good machines, and points towards the other side of the room. We slowly peer around the machine, and all immediately became horrified. Nobody else was in the room with us. He was pointing into an empty corner. We all stand up out of our seats and slowly back out of the room, not letting our eyes leave the man. Once he was out of our sight, we turned around and sprinted down the hallway back to the main game room. We all vowed to never go down that hallway ever again, and never did. But curiosity eventually got the best of us. About a year and too many casino trips later, we're playing blackjack back at that same casino with a fourth friend. He got bored and hungry and says we should look for food. After walking around looking for food, we made it back to the entrance of that very hallway that we vowed never to return to. The fourth friend said we should search down there for food. The rest of us tell him no and explain to him that we can't go back down there. He asks why, so we tell him about our experience down that hallway 1 year prior. He said we're bullshitting and that there's no room of slot machines in the location we described. He explains that his mom was a worker at the casino, and he would know if there was a rogue room of slots in the middle of nowhere. So we did the one thing we could do to convince him of our experience. We decided to lead him to the room. We made our way down the hallway in search for the room, but after walking for a few minutes, we reached the end of the hall. Confused, we turned around and searched again, thinking we had somehow missed it. No room. We came to the conclusion that they must have moved the machines out of the room, since the casino changes things around frequently, so people don't gain a sense of direction on the game floor. So we once again walked down the hallway in search of an empty room, or at least a set of closed doors that would enter the room. Nothing. No doors even remotely close to where we remembered the room. We were completely dumbfounded and started to question our sanity. All three of us remembered the room, in the same location, yet there was nothing. There was no room with slot machines. There was no room at all. To this day, neither me nor my friends understand or can explain how this happened. Hello, chill and thrill seekers. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future videos.